Hello, welcome back everyone to another episode of the series where we are reading the Laravel source code. And before we start looking at the code in this episode, I just would like to thank for the comments, and it helps a lot understanding what you guys are thinking about the series and where to go, and gives motivation, right? So yeah, thanks for that. And we will start here where we stopped last episode, which was this handle request. So right now Laravel, of course, configure itself with the application and the application builder, and it registered the things it needed to just bootstrap things. It registered the roots, etc., and it gives you in this bootstrap app the opportunity to register more things that your application needs. And now we stopped here in the handle request, but before we get there, we have to look at this request capture, right? So let's do that. This request here, it's the first time we will open the file, right? So let's just first understand what's the concept behind it, and of course it might be very clear already, but we will just take a look at the interface and all those things. So that's the HTTP request, and of course this class, it's representing that. So any application that it's served through the web, the client, which is probably the browser. Most of the times, of course, you have the API calls, etc. But let's think about the browser as being the client, of course, controlled by a user. So the browser will request things from the server, and this request, it's represented here, I think, with all the necessary operations and data for the rest of the application to serve that request, right? So one of the things, for example, are the parameters, and you can, if you use Laravel already, you probably use that. You have the root parameters that you can get from the request. You can get the input parameters as well, right? All of that, it's encapsulated here in the request. And I feel that this request here class in Laravel uses a lot of the Symfony components. Of course, it extends the Symfony request. I think it's not a separated library. I might be mistaken. So let's first take a look at that. So the Laravel request, it's actually extending the Symfony request, and this Symfony request, it's here, right? Symfony component, HTTP foundation request. So it is a component, a Symfony component, the request, but I think it's part of the HTTP foundation component, right? So let's take a look at that. Vendors, Symfony, HTTP probably, foundation, that's right. So it's a component encapsulating, let's see what. So encapsulates a lot of things. Files, the limiter, request matcher. All right. This probably it's a regex functionality to get things. Header, request matcher. Let's see here. Header match. Okay, it's just checking if the current request, the past request, matches any headers that this class has. But yeah, and this is probably using regex to yeah. But let's just go and see the request, because that's the first one we are using here. And so the Symfony request, it's also not implementing a interface like, well, Laravel, it's implementing the interface, but it's just to, I think, make the request more usable. Like you can use it as an array, right? But I don't think it makes sense to create an interface for the request, because it's really the only class that will use it, and you probably don't want to extend it or implement your own request, because it's a component by itself, right? If you are using the Symfony component HTTP foundation, you want the request right away, right? You if you want to, of course, do as Laravel is doing, you can extend it, but not implement your own request class. So that's why probably they don't define an interface. But we can look here. So what are the properties, right? So you have a lot of constants. So that's the part that we discussed. A request, an HTTP request, will have headers. So you have the types, the header attributes probably, right? That they are defining here. You have the method, and then they support all those new things here. Not new, but usually you just old PHP and had just the get and post, right? We were building applications with those only, but now we have all those as well. And I never saw this connect and trace, but yeah, either way, it's a type of method of HTTP request method. And then we start looking at the properties here. So we have trusted proxies, host patterns, trusted hosts, all of that. Of course, I probably, I don't know you guys, but I, of course, didn't use that directly. And I think it would be good to get into the details of those things when we see them in action from Laravel. But let's just give an overview here. What else we have? So we have the attributes, which is a bag, and this is just a concept of something that you put things inside, right? And the parameter bag, I don't know how it will differentiate from other bags, what specificness, well, sorry about that word, but other specific things it will have. And sorry about the barking here. We have the input bag from the request, so another bag to host the input parameters. We have input for the query. Okay, so those are the body when you have a post, and this is for the get. Server and execution environment parameters. So okay, uploaded files. Oh, so it's everything here actually, right? Cookies, the header, content, I'm not sure what it is. It's a string, resource, or false. Languages, character sets, encodings, right? So okay, we also have base URL here, base path, right? So yeah, all of those things I think will be will make more sense when we see them in action, of course. And let's take a look at the methods here. So to build a request, you can pass the query, and this is just an array. And the query, it's really the get parameters, right? So it's everything that you have after the base URL and, well, not the base URL, but the URL after the question mark, right? Character. And we have the requests, which are the post parameters. Okay, so request here, it's just the post parameters. The attributes are request attributes parameters passed from the path info. Okay, so it's basically everything after the base URL and until the question mark, right? And we have cookies, files, server, and content. And then we have this initialize. Let's take a look at the other methods. So we have the create from globals. Oh, okay. Okay, you can create, but you also can you can pass the parameters by yourself, or you can just rely on the global usual parameters, the PHP global variables that you can get all those things, right? Nice. And we have also the create request based on a given URI and configuration. Okay, so this it's different from the first one because it has the option that you can pass the URI, right? And this is just the query. And then it will replace things here. Replace. Why it's doing that? I don't know. It's hard coding this localhost here, Symfony. Maybe. I'm not sure if the array replace what we will do if there's no, because I think it will check, right, by the key. Let's take a look at that. I'm not sure. So array replace PHP. And array replacements, replace the values of array with values having the same keys. Yeah. If a key from the first array exists in the second array, its value will be replaced by the value from the second array. So it's actually replacing the first array here, it's this, the hard-coded one, right? The second one, it's the parameter that's coming here. And it says, if a key from the first array exists in the second, the value from the first will be replaced by the value from the second. So it's actually giving, this is just giving the full parameters, right? Because if the server parameter has a server name, for example, it does nothing here. But if it doesn't, then the server will have this. So it's basically initializing the attributes that are probably required, right? But yeah, let's not dive deep into this. Otherwise, we will, spend a lot of time into this one. This is to set a factory, duplicate. You can duplicate the request. You can clone. Has a lot of helper functions there. You can even pass this as a string, so it makes a nice string for you to debug, probably, of course. You don't want to pass this to your application, probably. And override globals, right? The globals might be just those ones from PHP global variables, set trusted proxy, set a list of trusted proxies. Yeah. So those are basically the setters and getters. Oh, those are the helper, normalize, query string, enable HTTP method, parameter override. What is this? Enable support for the method request parameter to determine the intended HTTP method. Enable this feature might lead to cross-site issues. Because then you would be able to pass a method and change the type of request. A method request parameter, right? Right. And we have the get, which is get a parameter from any bag, and how you define which bag. Result this attributes get, result if query has, or if request has. And this might be the request, it's the post parameters. I think we already saw that. And this attributes, I don't remember the difference, but this is basically the request parameters, post, and this I don't remember, the attributes. Order of precedence, path, get and post. Okay, so this is the get, right? Oh, sorry, the path. So everything between the base URL and the get ones, right? Okay, makes sense. Get session, has previous session, has session, set session, a lot of things related to the sessions. Get client IPs, get script name. Oh, you can do that from the request, and the script name will be retrieved from the server, which might be from the global or from a defined server attribute that the client code it's using. And this server get original script name. So it's either this or this probably, right? This parameter, because the server it's a bag, right? And the bag might have that functionality that Laravel also has. The collections. No, I think probably Laravel is using bags here as well. You can get, it's from the request. You can get, but you can pass the full value if this is not there, right? So that's maybe what's happening here. Get path info, base path, base URL real. The URL does not include trusted reverse proxy prefix, right? Get schema, port, user. Oh, okay. From the header, okay. Password, user info, HTTP host, request URI. Right. Well, it's not even half of a file, and let's just move on to where it's being used, which is, of course, being extended by Laravel. If we dive too deep, we will just keep reading without having something practical to look at. So I think the strategy here is to just understand that this is really conceptually representing the request, the HTTP request, and it has a lot of functionality to allow you to handle that request, right? As we saw. And Laravel, on top of that Symfony request, it's doing more things. So just let's have a quick look as well. What is that Laravel is doing, right? The first function here is the capture, which is the one that we saw here, request capture, right? And this is a static, and it will statically enable the parameter override. So it's always, Laravel, it's always using that. And of course, Laravel encourage you, and not only encourage, I think it's not possible to post things if you don't use the token. Well, you can post, but it will not be you will not be able to retrieve from the usual Laravel way, from the request, if there's no token there. So I think that's why they always enable by default, because they will always enforce you as well to use a token when posting. And then we can see that it's creating from base, and this is probably something in the, oh no, this is Laravel, because this is definitely Symfony, but this is Laravel, and create from base, Symfony request, create from globals. Okay, so we saw that create from globals in the Symfony request. What it's doing, it's creating the new request instance, but based in the global variables, PHP global variables. So Laravel decided to use that, and it's wrapping up probably the Symfony request around something else, because it's creating something with the Symfony request as a parameter. So let's see, create from base, create an eliminate request from a Symfony instance. Yeah, so it's receiving the Symfony instance here, and so for the request here, it's just that, the Symfony one, and then it's creating a new request from this class here. So new static, meaning new request, eliminate request, and it's getting so this request, remember, it's from Symfony, so this is all Symfony request query all, meaning this is from the global variables, because it was initialized from the global, right? Request, of course, getting first all the query, then all the path, then no, this is not the path, this is the post, sorry, and this is the path. We saw that, right? So the order, it's the other way around. Post, the path, no, sorry, get, post, and path. And it's also passing the cookies, new static. Right, so it's instantiating two requests, it seems, right? Because this new static will instantiate a new Laravel request, and will pass files. So it's handling, Laravel, it's handling files into a new request. So in the end, this will have two requests. It will be one Laravel request having another Laravel request just for files. It seems like that. And then it's passing, if they're files, of course, right? If there are no files, this filter files returns a request or just the files. We have to see. I think it just returns filter files. Oh, so it just returns the files. So it's just a helper function. Okay. And it's protected. How would this be called from an instance? New static future files. Well, I guess this is not an instance then, right? Let's just do a test. The new static. Not here, here. Okay, it's a request, right? So if we try to now with this request object, and it's a Laravel request, see, eliminate HTTP request. If we try to filter files from probably an empty array, I'm not sure if the filter files accept. It's mixed. Which type of parameter it accepts? Let's try with array. Okay, it's null. But if I try to do this outside the class, if I try to just do that here, so it would not be static, it would have to be new request. We have to have an error, right? Because it's protected. Storage logs level and we are not logging that here. We are logging that into variable logs and Apache and read write Laravel access an error log. Okay, further error, bad method call does not exist. Yeah, because it's protected. So I didn't know that actually, that you could call, even if it's a this is an instance, right? But if you are inside the class, you could call filter files. That's really that's weird. It doesn't make sense. Let's isolate this. Sorry, I have to test this. So I will, we have that already. Let's go to the index. I will do this move. Let's just, before everything here, maybe not before everything. Let's just do the auto load so we can use the DD. I will declare a class here, class my class, and I will do public, well, not public, right? I want protected function, my function, and here I'm just going to echo my function call, and if my class equals to new my class and do my class my function error, of course, and we have here, okay, call to protected method. So the error, it's different. That one, it's really does not exist. But let's just do this public function call my function. and this it's going to be my class new static of course it's static, so this is just accessing because it's actually the class itself, right? This would my class my function, and here I just call my function. Yeah, and it's echoing probably. Well, this won't have anything. It would, yeah, it's echoing here. My function call. So this works. But if I do self, for example, new self. Yeah, it's the same. New my class. I didn't know that. Okay, learned something new here. Did I delete it? The correct thing? Yes. Okay, so end of the story. This is basically just using a new instance of the request to just filter the files, right? But why, I ask? Because if you pass the files from Symfony, right? The data related to files from Symfony to the request, why not storing that and then filtering the files when you need them more in the constructor and assigning that to another attribute, another class attribute? Why instantiating a new request just to do that, just to filter the files and pass to the request that you are creating here? Let's see what the filter file does. Filter files. And filter files, filter the given array of files, removing an empty. So it's accepting a lot of things. If there's no files, of course, returns files as key. So it's not accepting actually a lot of things. It's just accepting an array, right? If it's array, okay, it might be just an arrayable. If you pass an object that implements that arrayable interface, it will probably work here as well. So that's why it's checking if it's array files. Oh, no, that's something. Yeah, it's checking the value. Sorry, I'm getting crazy. So if it's array, the value, it's an array, it will populate the array that's being worked here with more keys. Okay, we'll populate the on key will transform basically, right? The current key with files. So this filter file. So it's a recursive method here, and that's probably why it needs a. But Yeah, I'm not sure again why this is being used in a new instance. It might be in front of me, but I really can't get it. Yeah. Because it's not working with properties, right? The class properties is not setting anything. It's just really processing, making. When it's an array, it will call again. But if it's not an array, then it will empty files. If it's empty, then it will unset. We'll have to check this with for a real example. I'm getting confused what this is actually really doing. For me, it's just unsetting things that are not, doesn't have any value, right? Yeah. And when it does have value, it just return the files. Yeah, we'll have to any empty values. Yeah, it's saying here, just removing any empty values. Okay, let's move on. So the create from base, it's here. Let's just move this dd here and understand what Laravel is doing with the Symfony request, because that new request, headers, new request, content, so it's again using the Symfony one to get the headers, and it's replacing. But isn't this header here, it's the same, well, not the same, of course. This is a Symfony request and this is a Laravel request. But remember that the Laravel request is also extending the Symfony request, and the headers attribute is defined in the Symfony class, right? So this is also a bag, and the bag might have this replace function, right, that accepts the values, and it's basically replacing the ones that match, right? I'm just not sure why do that and not just set right away, right? Because you're creating from base. This is not called every time. It's just when you want to create. But I imagine this is just populating the request, the headers in this Laravel request from the Symfony values. And then it's setting the content as the same. That's okay. The new request is JSON. Then new request equals to JSON. So it's passing the request. I thought this request was a bag. I might be wrong, but let's just check. Foundation request. So it might be protected. Not static, but input bag probably request. No, input bag. Yeah, it's that. Oh, maybe I. Oh, it's public. Okay, so it's an input bag. Maybe this JSON method here also returns a bag, right? And the new request, it's Laravel. So let's see if this JSON here, function JSON. No, it's something from here. Yeah. So this JSON thing, it's Laravel. The Symfony doesn't have that, and what this is doing, it's just creating a bag, an input bag from the JSON payload, right? So if it's not defined yet that this is the JSON, so then it will try to. Oh, no. So it's not a confirmation, it's just the bag. It's just instantiating the bag, the JSON bag, and it's decoding the content of the request. So that get content, it might be something, yeah, from Symfony, right? Function get content. Yeah, it's here. Returns the request body. And okay, that first time I saw content, now it makes sense, of course. Right. So this is trying to decode, but the JSON decode, if it's not a JSON, let me just check here, JSON decode PHP. So associative JSON, when true, JSON objects will be returned as associative arrays. When false, okay. What happens? Returns the value encoded in JSON as appropriate PHP type. Encoded values true, false, and null are returned as true, false. No. If the JSON cannot be decoded, okay, or if the encoded data is deeper than the nesting limit, so null will be returned when it's not something that can be decoded. So the bag will be empty, and the bag being empty might trigger false when it's checked. Let's see here. So initialize the bag, then checks if the key, the passed key parameter for this one, right, it's null. If it is, then returns the bag, the entire bag, and otherwise it will try to get the data, the key from the JSON, right, with a default. And this data get, I don't think this is something from PHP, right? Data get PHP. No, this is Laravel, might be in the helper as well, to help getting things from JSON objects, or not objects, but remember this is an input bag, so this might be related to Symfony actually. Some Symfony, just check that, I'm curious. Data get, if I do vendor Symfony, let's be more specific. Function data get, right? And we will see how many. See open. No. This is something morning. Yeah. Yeah. No function data get. So this is vendor level. Yeah, it's Laravel. So the target, it's mixed. If it's no, how does it handle? If it's no for each key, okay. Because the input bag, it might also be a variable, so it would work here as in a for each, right? Yeah. Okay. So data get will try to get that attribute for us from the bag. Oh, the JSON all. So it's probably returning an array here when you get all from a bag. Let's see what we have here in the input bag. So it's vendor, Symfony, component, HTTP foundation, input bag. So function all. No, because that might be from the parameter bag. In the parameter bag, it's probably here as well. Parameter bag, all, and it's here. So if it's no, which in this case it is, then return this parameters, and this parameter is just an array, right? So it's just okay. Now we know that data get works with arrays. I don't know, well, probably it doesn't tell you. It tells you that accepts a mixed parameter, just because you can work with arrayable probably types as well, right? But that's the JSON. And when we were in the make, not make, just get back here. Capture, create from base, right? So this is JSON. So we saw that this JSON here, we return that back. But when it's JSON, we didn't see where it's checking that. Is JSON, let's just do function is JSON. Maybe it's not here. I think it might be here. New request is JSON, so it has to be here, right? Because the new request is the Symfony 1. Is JSON's not is using any traits or something like that? No, I don't think so. Where is that? Is JSON. No request, Symfony. Symfony, it's here. Help. Right, just checking the class. Maybe I just searched for the wrong thing. Is JSON. Is JSON, yeah, that's correct. Let's do this then. Not in here, but in here, and we can do HTTP foundation. Is JSON. No match. Well, level. And we'll have a lot of results. Yeah, this is silly. We could just search for a function, right? Yeah, let's do it again, but this time function, and here right, public function is JSON. So it's in the request. It's the one we were looking at. Why it didn't appear the first time we HTTP client. Oh, I see. So it's not the same file, right? We were working with the composer. Oops, not that one. Vendor level framework source eliminate HTTP request. We were working here, and this is extending Symfony request, but it's using those ones, and this one, no, it's here. This one, it is a class. Okay, it's JSON. How is that class request implements, and it's using micro let's do this. Come here, and we will do a DD on this one, just to get. Okay, the request it's here, and the JSON it's here, and it's null because it's not a JSON, of course. Request, but it's just the HTTP request, not the client. How's that that client thing being available here? Let's go from the start. Capture, create from base. Yeah, create from base. It will do a new static. Yeah. I don't know. Because this is not extending that. Array access. Probably one of those things. Yeah, let's just continue searching here. Interacts with content types is JSON. Well, yeah, okay. It's defined here, interact with content types, right? And it's just checking if the string contains the header, content type contains JSON or JSON. So that's why it's, not why, but it's how it's checking if it's a JSON request or not. Okay, we understood that finally. And we can go back to make from, not that, this one, it's the wrong one. Let's close some things to not get crazy. Make from, not, let's go from the JSON. Oh, yeah, that's the one, right? Oh, that's the Symfony one, and the Laravel one is here. Okay, so it's JSON. So if it's a JSON, it will replace the Symfony bag, request bag, with the JSON, and then return. So that's why it's creating from, it has this create from base here. It wants to create its own request Laravel. It wants to create its own request object based on the Symfony, but you see right here that there are some things that it's doing differently. So handling JSON like this, it's one aspect that's doing differently, because all the rest here, I think it's probably, well, I mean the files, probably it's also something different, but we would have to see the constructor here. Let's just take a look at that constructor for an example. Construct. Okay, it's not defining, so it's actually using this constructor here, right? Yeah. So it's passing the queries, yeah, the request, the attributes, the cookies, the files, yeah, server and the content. And the content it's not passing here. It stops in the server. The content it's defined here, right? Okay. So it's not doing much right now. This create from base here. But I imagine we will see here like this helper, URL, full URL, those things are not Symfony related. There are helpers that we have in Laravel. We will be able to see that, I think, more in detail when we use them, but just let's take a look at exactly what's doing. It seems that it's more like trying to name things differently, maybe a little bit more in a Laravel way. I see that Laravel doesn't like to use get. It doesn't use verbs in many of the getters and setters. The full way that they prefer to use, it's to just name the thing, use the name of the thing that you're getting. So that's why it's doing a lot of shortcuts, I would say. In this case, it's different. It has some logic here, right? Determine if the request is the result of a prefetch call. I don't know what a prefetch call is. We would have to get there, but secure IP, yeah, a lot of that. It's just renaming things. Replace, get. It's an override. This method belongs to Symfony, and it's not usually needed when using Laravel. Instead, you may use the input method. Yeah. Okay. Let's just then do this. We will have a capture, and let's just open the handle request and stop there, because this is taking much more time than we would have in an episode. But let's finalize with the vendor Laravel framework source. It's Laminate, it's foundation application, right? And we have function handle request probably here. Yeah. So this receives now the request from Laravel. See, it's Laravel, and we can just check here as well, request. Of course, it will be the Laravel one, or maybe we don't have, it's removed from there, yeah. Let me just double check. Yeah, so that is the Laravel request, and then we start finally calling the kernel, because this make, meaning this, the application needs also a container, right? Make will resolve any dependencies that the kernel contract, that the kernel instance, the class might have, and will create an instance for us. In this case, I think it's a singleton will return the instance for us from the kernel, and it's HTTP because it's not from the console. And then we will call the handle from the kernel, right? And this handle here will also pass the request. The handle call will also pass the request as a parameter. And anything that the handle method returns will, maybe it's the kernel itself, probably, will receive this call send. And the response will be stored here, and then we will terminate the kernel with the request and the response as parameters. But next thing we will take a look will be the handle. But to summarize today's episode, we understood a little bit more how Laravel is using the request from Symfony. It's extending it. The purpose in many places is to adapt the methods, the names, and not so much extend the functionality. There are some, of course, cases where you have new functionalities, like how you handle the JSON, but many methods there are just to really adapt how the methods are named, right? So, of course, this is just a brief overlook of the two request classes. It will be much more useful to see them in action, and we will, when we start diving into the kernel, what it does with the request. Of course, it will have to get a lot of things from the request to be able to handle, but this has to be in another episode, another video. So I hope you, for the ones that reached this far, you enjoyed and you learned things with this episode today, right? So take care. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.